What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy BT, and today we are here with the big boy, the big turbo diesel Cummins Ram 3500. And we've got this lovely product here from Boost Auto that we're going to install today. All right, so first to start off, I came across these running boards. Now, I needed running boards for the Ram. It did not come with running boards, so I started to do some research, and I immediately stopped here at the Lumastep M1. So I went ahead and I ordered these bad boys right here. And you know, I like the product so much that I reached out to Boost Auto. And I just want to thank them for sponsoring this portion of the video right here with the Boost Auto tow mirror lights for the Ram 3500. They even went ahead and threw in a nice little keychain and a hat as well. Thank you, Boost Auto. And with that, let's get this job started. All right, so this install is going to cover both of these products. So we're first going to start by opening up the running boards and getting that unboxed. All right, so you can see this kit is pretty straightforward. This is the passenger side. As you notice here, these little plates will be facing the front of the vehicle, which also will have the electrical connectors on that side, and your illumination faces the outside. So that is for the passenger side. This will be for the driver's side. And then we have our respective harnesses for each here. We've got our connections here into the headlights. Got this nice little vinyl piece here. All right, so for our tow mirror lights, this one is pretty straightforward. Lights. Plug it in, screw it in, you're done. It's just the disassembly portion to get everything taken apart, but that in essence is the entire setup right there. So it's gonna be a nice upgrade. Everything's gonna be looking nice and lit. All right, so as you can see here, this is the setup here. So this will be the driver's side with the BA symbol there. So it's gonna sit in like that. So we'll put this on our driver's side, and this will be the passenger side one here, sitting like this on that mirror on the other side, sitting that way. So we'll put that over here. Getting into our harnesses here. So this here is going to be our main harness here. This will go on the driver's side. And this one will be on the passenger side. And last but not least, we have packaging here with the headlight connectors. One for each side. Oh, we've got even more goodies right here. Look at that. Wonderful. All right, let's get this install underway. All right, so there is one more box, and in this box is all of the lovely hardware for the steps. So we've got a lot of brackets and components in here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay all this out on the table. And if you notice, there are different colors. So this is the green. I'm gonna put the green over there and the clear over here. All right, so here's all our hardware. These are the covers that will be used to cover these once they're installed. Got all of the parts here laid out. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go underneath so that we can show you the setup and what you're gonna need to get this job done. So we'll start with the first thing here. We're gonna be utilizing these, so we're gonna get these out. We're gonna use one for each portion where the supports will be held up. And then the rest will be the clips. Now we'll also be using these as well. So we're gonna split them up. Our push pins are gonna be utilized to secure these covers here. So we'll put those on the side. All right, so now we've got all of our screws here. All right, so quite a big bucket of stuff here, but don't let it intimidate you. It's going to be just fine. All right, so first thing we have here, we're going to be using these to help us with the install here. So I'm going to just put these over here so that we know what's what. So we're going to have these bolts here. And these ones with the Allen keys are going to be utilized with these. So we can go ahead and separate those out now. So we'll need 5 for each side. Okay, so we've got those separated out. All right, so here's our setup. We're almost ready to go. But this is what we're going to use to put in the spot where I'm about to show you in a second. And we're just going to preset some of these. So we've got our Allen screws here with a flat washer ready to go. Spacers are here. Everything has been separated. We know we're going to use this setup here on this portion that sticks out. We're getting ready to get underneath here, so I'm going to show you exactly how this gets set up here. Everything is pre-staged, like I mentioned. So I think we are ready to go. Hopefully this makes sense, but in short, this is step 1 right here. We're going to get this ready to go. Then we're going to be able to mount the actual bracket underneath, and then we'll follow the steps and you'll see exactly what screws are going where. All right, so we're going to start off by the one labeled B for the driver's side. All right, so here's what we're talking about here. We're going to be using this spot here. We're at the front of the vehicle. So this spot here will be the first mounting spot. That will be the second. And that will be the third. All right, so here's our procedure. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go in through this hole right here. We're going to use this screw on the side. It's going to sit like this once it's inside. What we'll do is we insert this in here, use this screw right here to insert this through the hole and hold on to, let's see, get it in there. Insert that there, hold on to it, grab this little guy right here, slide it over. All right, and once you got that flush, we're gonna go ahead and take this screw out. All right, so with our bracket labeled B, we're gonna go ahead, slide that there. Then we're gonna just twist this up until you can see that threaded hole there. All right, once you got everything in line, grab that bolt setup we just showed you. Start to screw that in. Kind of get that set in place. All right, so then grab your flat washer, your lock washer, and the nut. Go ahead and screw those in place. Now we don't want to have everything fully snug because we're going to need to adjust some things. Then we'll grab our 13 millimeter here. Get a little bit more snug. Okay. Now you don't want it to be too tight, so if it gets too tight, just go ahead and loosen that. Because if you notice here, in this section, we'll need to make an adjustment to slide it like that, so you can see these two holes align here. So then we're going to take this setup here, with this little bolt, slide it through. We're going to place this on top, put a flat washer in place, and then a nut. Screw that in, and do the same thing on the other side. All right, so here are the parts we're going to be using. Here in this portion, we're going to be using the T-bolt along with its supporting components to lock everything in place, but I'm going to show you exactly where you need to set those T-bolts up in order to get the running board in place. All right, so we're going to take our running board, make sure that this little emblem here is up to the front of the vehicle. We're working on the driver's side, so all we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. All right, so if you notice on this side here, there's an opening. We're able to put these bolts in and slide them down. So what we're going to do is you're going to be using 2 for each section. We're going to slide down 6 bolts, 3 on each side. And we're going to put them in the approximated area for each one of our brackets. And then we're going to go over to the vehicle and get them set in place. So we're going to slide them roughly to where they need to be. You might have to adjust them to get everything set in place. But with those in the rough positions, what we'll do is we'll proceed over. We're going to turn the board onto that bracket and get everything situated in place. All right, so now we're going to take our board. All I did was turn the board over. Now we've got our bolts in our rough location. So now it's a matter of fishing them in through the hole to each of the appropriate locations. Actually, to make this a little simpler, you can kind of see roughly, where you want your board to be, and then just slide your screws, slide those bolts roughly in the spot where the bar is, so that it'll get at least a little closer to where you want it to be. And then with that in place, just go ahead and gently turn it over so your bolts don't go shifting all over the place, and slide it. Get those bolts slid through the holes there. I did not get it in the appropriate spot, but what I did was slide the bolts exactly where I needed them to be. So what we should be able to do is just lift up, slide over, and we should get them in place. All right, we're able to get the first one's up front in place, second one's in place, and third one's in place. Okay, so that worked out good. Now all you need to do is just adjust the running board where you would like it to sit, and then we'll get everything snug in place. All right, so I opted to put it right at the edge of where this meets here. That looks pretty good from that perspective there. Let's go ahead and check out underneath what we're talking about here, about getting those bolts aligned. So with everything aligned, now we can move to the final piece, which is to add a flat washer, add a lock washer, and then finish it off with a nut. All right, so for this portion, we're going to be using a 10 millimeter. So we're going to use a 10. We're going to get the running board snug in place. After we get the running board in place, we're going to be using the combination of the 13 for the larger bolts and the 10 for those small bolts in conjunction with the Allen key to get everything snug and in place. And then we're just going to go ahead and repeat that for the passenger side. And then we'll proceed to moving on to the wiring. On second note, we're gonna have to use a 10. We're gonna have to use a 10 millimeter wrench instead in order to get in there. The proximity is it's a little tight in there, so we're gonna use a 10 millimeter wrench. And there you have it. So now we just rinse and repeat on the other side until we get to the wiring. Boom, and there it is. So before we move on to the wiring, we've got these to add, 2 clips, and we're done. All right, so for this last piece, we're going to take these and we're going to make sure that this lines up in the center of the bracket. So that's just a quick slide on over like so. Align your holes, secure your fasteners, and we're done. All right, so now we are going to move into installing the harness. This is the main harness. You know it's the main harness because it has these 2 pieces on here. We're going to use this connector for the headlight on that side, and this will be the harness for the passenger side. Let's go ahead and get these unwrapped here. Okay, so this is the portion of the wire on the main harness that is going to be routed to the running board. So this will be routed down to the running board. We're going to have to use some sort of fishing tool to get that down. So with that down now, going to the running board, we're going to have these portions here that are going to the battery. Then that leaves you with these 2 additional connectors here. So as you can see now, this section is what's going to be going to the running board on the passenger side, which will bring over these 2 connections. One of these connectors will be going into the headlight. So this will go into the headlight on the passenger side, and this will come over to the main harness, in which it will clip into here. These 2 are on the battery, and this portion here will plug into this harness, which will go into the light connector. So that gives you a rough idea of how this setup will come together. So first we're going to start by running this on the driver's side. We're going to have to go ahead and get the negative terminals disconnected on both of the batteries on this vehicle, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so here we are. We've got the first battery connector over there. We're going to disconnect that. Then we have another one over here that needs to be disconnected. So we're working on the negative side of the battery. So typically when you end up disconnecting the negative, it wants to kind of slip back in place. So we're going to go ahead and get something to hold it from re-engaging with the battery. All right, so we use a little bit of tape there to hold that in place. We'll go ahead and disconnect the second portion of the battery here. All right, so once you get that out of the way, once you get that taken off, we'll move to routing the wire down to the board. All right, so here's my method of fishing here. We've got a fiberglass running wire kit. I took one of these. You can kind of see the length there. Then what I did was I went from underneath and I actually started fishing it right there along that side. And look where it came out, exactly where I needed it to be. So we're actually good here. So now we're gonna tape onto the end of that and get this finished off. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna have this up, this down. We're gonna tape the bigger connector up front and leave the smaller one in the back. Hopefully we'll be able to get this thing to slide through with no hitches along the way. All right, so here we go. All right, so there it is. We're able to get that down. We're gonna take our tape off, get it plugged up into this spot right here, and then move on to the passenger side. So when you plug those in, you should be able to hear those snap. So I think we're going to end up having to zip tie that in a particular manner, keep it all clean and nice, but we'll deal with that at the end. Let's move over to the passenger side. All right, let's get this passenger side routed. All right, nice and easy. It feels like routing from the bottom helps a lot to be able to just, if you have the right tools though, it helps you to be able to get it exactly where you want it, and we just go with it. Okay, so we got our passenger side harness. We're gonna go ahead and tape this in the same manner we did as the other one. I'm gonna tape the bigger connector down bottom, the other up top, just to help with the bulk of what's passing through. So hopefully nothing gets snagged along the way. All right, we made it through successfully. Go ahead, take our tape off, connect our wires. And you really want to lock them in there till you hear that snap. We'll pull a little extra through. Now we will get ready to get all the wiring in place. All right, so now we got to get all of these little push pin connectors out. So we're gonna try to get all of these out without damaging any of them. So let's go ahead and get this thing disconnected. All right, so with all of your fasteners out, we should be able to remove this here. Nice and easy. All right, so now we're moving on to removing the air box here. All right, so now we're working in this area here to get these sensors off. First thing we gotta do, pull down on this tab here, remove that. The next one, we're gonna have to use a flathead and basically pull the tab up, and then you're gonna push down in order to pop that off. All right, next we're gonna be working in this section here. And we're just gonna remove these are 10s. Okay, so we got the 10s out. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this piece here out of this section here so it's out of the way. And we also need to remove this harness as well. Last thing we wanna do is disconnect this right here so that we can pull this out of the way. Okay, so now that we have this out of the way. All right, so now we are actually going to take this section off of the air duct. Okay, just put a little screwdriver, just put a little flathead in there, slide that off. Then next, we should be able to just pull on the air box in order to get it up and out of the way. And there we have it removed. All right, so to disconnect this connector here, I'm gonna use a long screwdriver, get it set right on this red spot right here, give it a little twist, and it's disconnected. All right, so after this red tab comes out, you can slide it out, and then you push down right here, and then you can pull the harness out. Like so. All right, so here's our harness adapter. What we're gonna do is take our regular harness, and we're gonna take that, we're gonna plug that into here. Make sure that snaps in place. Slide that up. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this end, we're gonna slide it into the spot where the other one was, click it into place, lock it in. We're gonna make sure that this is tucked out of the way, so when the air box comes back in, it's not hindering anything. Then we're gonna take our wiring harness here. So now we're gonna take this end of our harness and connect it here. Make sure you slide it until everything snaps into place. So there we have it. We got a nice snug tight connection there. So this section is done. So all we have to do now is route this wiring, clean and tidy it up so it's out of the way for when everything is put back together. All right, so I'm gonna go over how I routed the wires. So the wire comes in through here. I routed it around the battery. This will be cleaned up in this section right here. We've got our termination down here with our adapter and everything tucked away neatly. This will be plugged right here after everything is neatly cleaned up. We're probably going to get some zip ties and bring these points a little closer here. We do have this wire running here, and it runs underneath here all the way around. And then it comes around here, and we plug it in right here in this spot right there. And then for the wire coming up from here, I've routed it from this section around the battery, coming in on this side. We're going to terminate these onto this section here, left and right. And you can see here, this is where my fuse is down there. My fuse is sitting right here. So everything is nice and clean. The only thing left to do is to hook up the adapter onto that harness there, get some zip ties in place, and we should be good to go with these running boards. So after fighting and fighting and fighting with it, I finally got it disconnected. I don't understand why this one was so stiff, but needless to say, it's finally disconnected. We can finish up this job. Okay, we got a solid connection there. Now we're just going to attach this to the headlight and hopefully be done. All right, last portion here is now to get our wires attached to their respective locations. So we're going to come over here to this section here. All right, so that is a 12 millimeter. We're going to take that off and use that as our positive mounting point. We're going to attach this here. Okay, so we've got our positive attached. Actually, we're going to redo that. I'm going to route it up through the cover so that it's a little cleaner. So we're going to take this and route it through this little cover here. Come up through the top and over. Okay, so that is a lot cleaner there. This wire, tuck it here. Reattach this. And then for our negative, we'll just come around the back side here. And we'll attach that to this post here after we get everything reconnected. And then once we get our battery post connected back on here, that should wrap that up. We're going to go ahead, reinstall our air box, get everything locked and loaded, put some zip ties in place, and we should be good. And if you do it right, everything pretty much looks like stock. All right, everything is looking good. The last thing we need to do is to reconnect our battery terminals back in place here. And our lights should be hooked up and ready to rock and roll. All right, so that wraps up the running board portion of the install. The wiring has been run, the running boards are set. Next, we'll be moving on to these lights over here, and then we are totally done with this lovely Boost Auto install on this Ram 3500. All right, so first thing we're gonna wanna do is extend the mirrors. So you push that on, go ahead, extend. All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna push on the left side here, and we're gonna go ahead and get that mirror rotated all the way up so we'll have enough space to pop that mirror out. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do here, since we have this in the upward position, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick a flathead up in here. All right, so I actually decided to go in from the top. I tilted the mirror down. It was actually easier to locate exactly what I needed to separate. Let's take a look. So if you look in here, all I did was put the flathead right kind of where you can see the marks and just twisted, and it was able to pop the clips off. So you can see here, These are the clips you're trying to separate. So it makes it a little easier for me to get it disconnected by going from the top. So once you have the first two disconnected, it's a little easier to just pop the rest out with your hand. Just nice and easy here. So everything is now disconnected, as we can see here. So now what we need to work on is getting these connectors here disconnected so we can remove the mirror from this area here. So we're going to start with this one right here. So if we pull that out of place there, this just looks like it needs a pull to separate. Okay, so we just kind of pull on that, that gets that separated. All right, next we're going to remove this connector here. First we have to release it from these little holders right here. Just be sure not to break the plastic that's holding it. Just be gentle. A little tug there. Okay, and then you pull on this tab and you slide down. And we remove that connector. Then all that's left are these two right here. Just be gentle with pulling these off so you don't break anything. All right, so for this, we're just going to use a pick tool to gently twist these up. Put a little twist on it and get it to move upwards here. After it starts to move, should be able to just pull it off. Okay, and that releases the mirror. Next step for the bottom mirror, we're going to push this one so we get access from the top. It's basically the same setup. So whatever access you can get, and then you're going to put your flathead in there, and we're going to do the same method as the last. Push it in, twist until you hear it pop. Okay, and after those are released, we've got two here to pull off. All right, now that we have this disassembled, we've got some T15 screws in here. Okay, so we've got those 4 screws out. Now we can pull this forward like so. We have one connector here that we need to disconnect. All we have to do here is pull up on this little tab. So if you need, use a little pick tool to help you with this one here. Just pull up on this tab here and release it. And last on the disassembly, we have some screws here to take out. So we have one screw here, one screw here, one here, and that will allow us to release the back piece off of the housing. Actually, those are all the screws we needed to take out. All right, so we had to take 3 screws to get this disassembled. Now we can just release this connector here, and we have the whole shroud disconnected from the mirror assembly here. All right, so the last step here is to remove the actual light fixture. This is connected with T10s, so all we have to do is take out these 3 screws here. All right, and then make sure you have the correct side. What we do is we're going to just take this out like so and set that off to the side. We're going to slide this one in. reassemble our screws here, and you can see how pretty straightforward, pretty simple this installation is. Not very complex at all to disassemble, and it is a very nice upgrade. All right, and just like that, look at that. We have finished the upgrade of the light. Now all we have to do is put everything back together. So install everything back in the reverse order, and we will be done with the light upgrade on this Ram 3500. All right, so when we're getting ready to put this back together, first thing we want to do is make sure we grab our connector for the light, clip that in, or else you'll have to do it all over if you forget to plug that in. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to slide this back in place. And once we get it back in place, it should be pretty straightforward. Make sure you get any of the wires out of the way, and we'll get this thing reassembled. Okay, once everything is in the position where it needs to be, grab your 3 screws. We're going to be going here, here, and in here to secure that back in place. Okay, so with that back in place, next we can bring this back and hook this in here. So again, everything back in reverse order. Plug that in, then get that tucked into its location where it was previously. Okay, now we've got 4 screws to insert here. So we've got 2 on the bottom and 2 up top. Now with that in place, you can see the reassembly process is pretty straightforward. Get your mirror oriented in the right direction. Plug our little connectors back on here. And all we're going to do is snap this in place, align everything, and snap. And you just want to push it until you hear it snap in place. And the final piece of this assembly here, grab your mirror and reassemble everything as it previously was. And just like that, we are done with the light upgrade for this mirror. So all we have to do is repeat the steps on the other side, and we should have a finished product in no time. there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the installation of the tow mirror and the Lumastep M1 by Boost Auto. It's your boy BT. Thank you for checking out this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.